Welcome to the shop, everybody. Tuesday Acres here. This is our 2003 Jeep Grand Cherokee Overland Edition, but all of the information I'm going to go over today should work with 99 to 2004 Grand Cherokees, basically all models as far as I'm aware of. And these are considered the WJ models. So I ran into an issue 3 weeks ago today where the driver's seat would not move. And it's all electric, there's no hand controls at all. The memory buttons wouldn't work and the actual switches wouldn't work at all either. I checked all the fuses, relays, nothing seemed to make a difference. So a couple days after that, I went ahead and started working on it, pulled it in the barn here, and I found the floorboards wet on the driver's side. And I don't mean a little bit wet or damp, I mean soaking wet where you can squeegee water off the floorboard with your hand. So I made up a list of 6 possible ways that water can ingress into your Jeep. And I've went through and checked everything on this Jeep. Now I've already completed this, so this is like a pre-intro, post-edit kind of a thing so that you can see what I went through. And I'm gonna list them off for you right quick. The lower windshield seal area under the dashboard. There's an antenna grommet where the antenna cable goes through the wheel well on the right front side. The windshield grill, valance, cowl, whatever you want to talk about it, that grate in front of the windshield, water drips into there and then spreads out and goes around into some other drain holes. We'll be going over that one. There's a seam in the wheel well that some folks have talked about or had issues with leaking. The door jamb weather stripping, that's this stuff right in here. I'm going to cover that. And arguably the biggest issue, at least for me, was the sunroof drain tubes. And I go into depth about that. I fixed it. I had 3 of these issues on this Jeep. The sunroof drain tubes, both front tubes were cracked and just shot. The weather stripping wasn't sealing properly. And my antenna grommet was completely shot. Also, because of the water issue on the driver's side floorboard, there's a wire loom that runs through there, and I had more than half a dozen broken or rotted wires in there that I had to repair. We'll go over that as well. And finally, the rain sensor. When I was pulling the headliner down to work on the drain tubes for the sunroof, the rain sensor got pulled off the windshield, and honestly, at this point, even though I got it back on there, I don't know if it's going to work, but we'll go over that as well. All right, so now we're gonna go back in time 3 weeks when I first started this job. I'll take you through everything. If this helps, please hit that like and subscribe. I appreciate you watching, and here we go. All right, everybody. Well, this is a new one to me. At least this bad. It's kind of unreal, to tell you the truth. So, pulled that guy off, and I have literally standing water down here. The entire floorboard is completely drenched, but only on the driver's side. Passenger side is fine. So either it's leaking out of the vent ductwork or I got a leak in the exterior shell somewhere. But I wanted to pull the seat out so that I could get a better look at the connections underneath and see how far the water goes, because the back seat doesn't look too bad. But the seat's stuck, I can't move it. So the bolts that hold it down, the front bolts, they pop out real easy, but the back bolts have this shroud over them that you can't get to with the seat back. The seat has to be almost all the way forward. So jumped on one of the Jeep forums, and I was pulling this off anyway, and lo and behold, and this is for just those that don't know, this isn't my idea, I had to look it up myself, but there's this screw hole right here. Takes a number 2 square drive right there, and you just throw a drill on it. I'm using an impact driver, but I'm gonna go nice and easy, and we'll see how long it takes. It turns super easy. I was able to turn it by hand earlier, and I don't know which direction we got to turn it yet, but we're gonna find out. I'd like for everybody to be able to see this. Oops, wrong one, idiot. That is a Phillip. Where did I put that square drive? I feel stupid. I went and grabbed it, and Mrs. came out and we were talking and totally lost track. Oh, there it goes. That's not bad. Wow, that was actually really easy. Holy smokes. And I couldn't even get this cover off all the way because there's a dang screw hole back here. that I couldn't reach because it was in between the pillar. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, cool. So that's out of the way. So the first thing I got to do is get this floorboard dried out. So I'm going to go ahead and get the seat out here and then dry this floor, and we'll pick up the video whenever that happens. All right, so now I'm going to switch over to the GoPro and show you what all I've torn apart and what I found. And I honestly, at this point, don't know if the water in the floorboards, you know, probably grounding out some power, something like that. I don't know if that's the issue for the driver's seat. We're going to find out. But I also had water on the passenger side. The passenger floor was wet. And after doing a little research on my own, I was able to find 4 common areas where water gets into the cabin. Well, I guess really 5. So I'll pinpoint each one of those and you can check on those. And I'm gonna show you what I've done so far and what I'm about to do to fix these issues. And I know there are other videos on this. And personally, I'm kind of anal retentive. I want it back to the way it was, or at least close, without spending, you know, breaking the bank here. So I'm going to show you what I come up with, and I think it's going to work. Now, this is not easy. Getting in behind this dash, you know, pulling a dash in itself, that's a ridiculous job on almost any vehicle. It just really sucks. Literally like a 10-hour job just to pull a dash. So I wouldn't recommend that, but I was able to get in here and figure this out. So let me show you. All right, so let's go over these 4 places or 5 places where water can get in that I've been able to find. So you got your little grill up here, vent, whatever you want to call that, dude. Water runs off up top here through the channel off this side. It goes into this little divot here, and then it drips down from there and comes out down here. So you got to pull this plastic splash shield out of the way. It just has 3 of these little plastic rivet things, Christmas trees, whatever. But then it drips out of that little crevice right there. See that little crevice right there? That's where it comes out of. So this side isn't plugged, it looks fine. A little bit of crud in some of these other weep holes, but not bad. One fellow was saying that he thinks this area allows water to get in. I don't think so, but you know, I might just throw, you know, goober a little bit of silicone in there anyway. So I don't think that's any issue over here. Now the passenger side, as far as the where the water can get in. So again, our little weep holes, you know, not bad, but then that one is completely clogged, which would cause the water to kind of disperse unevenly. And you can see this line right here. That's where water is dripping over and coming down this way. But this is my antenna hole. Look up there, that's the antenna, which I need to fix anyway because the mount for it is busted. So when I pull that out, I'll go ahead and disconnect the antenna wire and I'll put a new grommet in there. And I have a feeling that that is the cause of my passenger side floorboard getting wet, along with, you know, that crap there. Again, this spot here I don't think is really an issue. Again, I'll probably just throw a little bit of sealant in there anyway. So I think that's the issue here. Now as far as other issues on the inside, I didn't ever really realize this, but the sunroof actually has this rain channel built into it with 2 tubes. Well, I think there's actually a couple drain tubes in the back too, but I'm just worried about these front ones. So this tube right here gets connected to this blue line. Okay, that goes up in there, and it gets routed around the A-pillar here, right there, and you can see these little clips. I've already disconnected the whole thing all the way down. And looking over here, I was trying to figure out if there was any water dripping. I could just barely see, you can kind of see that line right there, right here, where water was dripping. So I checked the corresponding area on this blue tube, and sure as heck, there's a little bit of a crack right there. I know the GoPro doesn't focus that well that close, but so that's definitely a part of it on this side. Now for the driver's side, this is where all the bells and whistles started ringing. So same thing, we got our blue tube that gets routed up top, you know, followed it down along, but I actually found this first. This is the first thing I found, then I started ripping everything else apart, but the tube is actually broken. So sorry, that's the top half. The bottom half is actually still stuck up in here. Let's see if we can see it actually. Kind of a royal pain in the butt. There it is. That little chunk of blue tube sticking out right up in there. That's the other half. That connects to this, which comes up from the bottom. And the way these are routed in here is absolutely insane, which I can't believe it. You can just barely see that blue tube up in there, which I'm not gonna try to get too much of this on video because it really is damn near impossible to see it. But it goes down there and it literally does this S-turn through that area. And trying to get in there has been a nightmare. So right up in there, you can just barely see the blue tube way up in there. And it literally, it turns back and then it turns forward and then it turns back and down all at the same time. And what's worse is there's these little clips like that there. There's 2 of them back down inside of here. So I was able to get both of those clips free. And I think what I'm gonna be able to do is pull new tubing. I'm gonna tape, at least for the other side. This side, I don't know exactly how I do it. I'm probably gonna cut it right here, tape the new tube to it, and then gently pull it down. Getting that tube on the other side, I thought the driver's side was gonna be tougher to get to because of the whole dash area, but it's not. The passenger side is actually much worse because you can't get in there at all. And I had to pull this junction box out, get all of this crap up and out of the way. And there's our blue tube, and it keeps going up and up and up. And you can see it down in here. Actually, the GoPro might even be able to see where I was able to get the clip undone. That was the hardest clip to undo. If you don't get that clip undone, you're not going to be able to pull anything through it. You'll just have to reroute it, which honestly, most people should probably just try to reroute it. Then up here, same thing. You can see where there's a clip right there. That one I was able to just, hit with a screwdriver from way out here and pop it loose. So that one wasn't all that bad, but the one that's right, where'd it go? This is really tough to see. You see that little slit right there? Let me grab my screwdriver. So this slit right here, if we look through there, you can see the little Christmas tree, or the back side of the Christmas tree. And it's literally the other side of that. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. I'm sorry. But so I had to do this contortionist act of sliding my hand up behind here, up through there, and then with my left finger guiding the screwdriver, using my right hand to get the screwdriver up in there, I was able to pop that thing loose. So all of those are loose. All right, so the GoPro's getting too hot. I'm gonna have to shut her down, let it cool off for a few minutes. So now you see what we're working with here. I'm going to get everything set up, and once I start trying to jiggle in the new tubing, which, oh, by the way, I found some of this, this clear tubing, which is the same OD, outside diameter, as the blue stuff, all right? I used a micrometer or dial caliper, whatever you wanna call it. Anyway, so I'm gonna try this. It should be about 5 feet per side, and there's definitely more than that here. And I'm going to tape one end to the other end, and I'll show you that when we get to it. So far I haven't had to buy anything. I did look online and they actually sell replacement drain tube kits. I couldn't imagine trying to put one of those in. And honestly, I just don't want to wait for it. It might actually be easier because those probably have more flex, to get around those tight bends versus this stuff, but I'm not gonna wait around for that new stuff. I wanna get this thing fixed and out of here. All right, and before I forget, the last 2 places, so I said there was 5 common areas for leaks. So the last 2 places that you'd wanna check for, one is gonna be your evaporator core. There's a seal right there around that evap core, and there's a drain for it somewhere. And you wanna make sure that that isn't draining inside versus outside. The tube is up underneath here, and we can look for that later. You can figure that one out. And then apparently, somewhere where the edge of the windshield, just below that front right corner, which obviously you're not going to be able to see it because everything is in the way down here. But apparently there's a seam back up in there that sometimes at the factory they missed, you know, all the goop that they put on all these joints. Apparently they missed a little bit back there. I don't think that's my issue here. This floor doesn't normally get soaking wet, so I'm not too awfully worried about that. All right, so let's do a little tooltip time here. So I got 3 different sets of cutters, tubing cutters. My favorites are these ones. These are Milwaukee. I use them for PEX mostly, but man, they are fantastic. Replaceable razor in there or blade. These rigids, I really like these two. These are better. They're a little bit tougher, I'd say. I use these for PVC. Super strong, super stout, very well made. And then it's hard to go wrong with Greenlee. These ones are heavier duty even yet, and they're the ratcheting style. You know, if you're doing just all around stuff and you don't need anything in particular, I'd say get the rigid just because it's the most versatile. But if you're doing PEX or smaller tubing or lightweight tubing, like I'm gonna do today, that's what these ones are best for. So let's get this tubing opened up here. Oh, and one of these. Now this is the original Fastback Milwaukee, and I love it. I don't like those new ones that have all that weird crap on them. Having an extra spot for a blade would be kind of nice, but I'm not worried about it. You know, if I wear one blade out, you can just pop it loose, you know, just by pressing the button. But it feels awesome in the hand, and it's a good size for decent. I wear size large gloves, and this just feels perfect. So I like this one the best, and unfortunately you can't even get it anymore. Anywho, get this thing opened up, and I am just going to cut a little bit off the end so that I have a clean area to start with. You can see just pop, it just perfectly clean square cut. Okay, now I'm gonna tape this to the old one in there. This might be kind of tricky to see, but I'm gonna give it a shot. Now I'm gonna try to pull it from the top down, and we'll go ahead and, I don't know, cut it somewhere about here. I'm gonna use some high quality, this is Scotch brand electrical tape. I'm gonna put 2 pieces lengthwise to join them. Get some surface area on there. I really hope this works. You see how I'm doing this? Because I don't want it to be too rigid, because going through those little S-curves in there, it's going to need some flexibility. So hopefully these will give it some strength, and then I'm going to do just a couple wraps of spiral so that these don't come loose. All right, see how that is? So it's still nice and flexible. Now obviously this blue stuff is much more flexible than the clear stuff. Okay, now I'm just going to give it a few wraps around, with probably just one extra little wrap in the middle. Actually, I don't think I'm going to do an extra wrap in the middle. All right, so that's good and connected. I have a feeling that this blue stuff might have a crack in it somewhere else, and that will give out before anything else. Now I'm gonna try to reach under here and see if I can't start jiggling this guy through. What the heck? This is such a pain in the butt, because you can't really see or get to anything. Okay, I got a hold of the end of it. All right, she's moving. Oh, this is gonna suck so bad. This is gonna be like one of those, move it 3-4 inches at a time and then reset. So I gotta do it in sections. Oh, it broke. No. Doggone it. Neck is already killing me. Jeez. Yeah, this tubing does not want to play. But we're gonna keep working it. Yeah, a whole chunk broke off in there. And I basically have to do this whole thing by feel. So I can't get my head in there to look. But I can somewhat see it through the cracks in the dash here. So it goes up and over this, or behind this wiring harness that's right next to the firewall. I think I'm just gonna pull it away from that on the front side or the back side of the wiring harness, and then just reroute that section of it later once the rest of the tubing is through. Oh, we're getting there. Now, I don't know if the limiteds and overlands have a different dash setup. I don't know if maybe that dual climate control crap has anything to do with it. Oh, that'll put a crick in your neck. Because the guy I watched, the video I watched, the guy was able to just slip the passenger side straight through. It's like hooked it on and just pulled it right through. And looking at mine over there, there's no way that's gonna happen. Because it's got an S-curve in it like this one does. But we're almost there actually. The tubing is well through. Probably even see it now. Almost. Got about maybe a foot more to pull through here. No, not even. Yeah, maybe. Okay. So you can see the clear tubing now. Whew. That sucked. I can go ahead and get this other piece off of here. But I'm glad I took the time to do this. That way it's routed properly, out of the way like it's supposed to be. Okay, now that crap can get out of here. I'm gonna pull this grommet out of the floorboard, which I'm gonna put the camera on a tripod so you can see a smaller tripod. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you'll actually be able to see what's going on inside. All right, so under the floorboard here, there's a grommet. And once I pull it out of here, I'll show it to you. So that's what goes into the floorboard. And it was also broken there. So I'm just gonna go ahead and yank this off of here. And they had a little bit of schmoo on there, but that's the little nipple that it'll go into, that the new tubing will go into. Let's see if it actually fits. Like a glove. Perfect. So our tubing, there's our new grommet, or the old grommet, and it just perfectly fit on there. This is 1/2 inch OD. I didn't measure the inside of it. I'm gonna get it in place. Oops, I gotta reroute it above or well behind that wire harness. I said I went around to make it easier. Way up there, holy crap. Jeez, oh Pete. I don't think the camera could even see up there, but let me try it. Maybe, and this is the big camera, so I really don't know how this is gonna work. So I apologize in advance. All right, so I had my hand stuck way up in there. Where's our tubing? So there's our tubing way in the back there. And just blind, there's this huge wire harness. Yeah, right there. And it needs to be on the front side of that to get closer to the firewall. And then it gets routed right along the edge here, all the way down. Holy smokes. Okay, so there's 2 harnesses. Yeah, the camera can't see it. My apologies. And it's even further up there than that. So I'm gonna, doing this one-handed sucks. Little by little, get this thing brought up here. And there we go. Now I'll fish it back down through. Okay, I think my routing is sufficient. So up top here, she goes in, and then I was actually able to see the tube right there. That's our clear plastic tube in this little cutout right there. Let me grab a pointer. All right, so right up in there, yeah, right there. That's our plastic tube. And same thing right up in there is our plastic tube. So I was able to see it and work it from the top and bottom, just snake it through there. You can see one of the clips up in there as well. And then from the bottom side here, getting around these wire harnesses was a royal pain in the butt. But she's where she's supposed to be now. And I just need to make sure that I got enough pulled through to reach our grommet hole down there. And we'll get the carpet moved out of the way just slightly. Get our tube and our grommet. Okay, actually I'm gonna put the grommet in first, make that a little easier. Okay, so you see our grommet's back in there. Now our tube just gets pushed onto it, just like so. All right, these are aftermarket speaker wires that are in the way. I'm not worried about that. So, okay, so our tube is in place now. I think it's got plenty of travel here. It's tucked out of the way like it's supposed to be. Yeah. Now by hand, I'm gonna try to get this guy back in its clip and get it clipped. Because there was one clip way up in here. And it was a royal pain in the butt. There it is. Okay. Give it a little extra slack, take some out. There we go. And I might have bent that clip release. Okay, so that one's good. Now let's see if we can't get this weird position top one, which is way up here. It's these position clips. Yeah, like that one there. I could have swore there was a third one down in here somewhere. That's hidden. I don't see it. So I ain't gonna worry about it. We'll get this clip put on. Actually, I'm just gonna get it in position of all the clips. There. I'll go ahead and try to seat these clips. This one, for whatever reason, does not want to clip. Oh, it's clipped. Okay. So those are all done. Now we'll measure this one. Now I'm just gonna run this tube up in here, measure it out to where it's supposed to go, snip it. And then it has this little connector hose on it, or connector piece, so we'll make sure we get that on there too. And it ran up. I'll give it a little extra just in case I need to reroute. Can always cut it shorter. Now hopefully, now some of the guys actually put some more goo inside of these. I'm not worried about that. I'm just gonna put a couple wraps of tape on the end of this to give it a little tighter fit. See how that fits. Yeah, that's good enough. Doesn't have to be perfect, just somewhat snug. I might have a little too much. Yeah, I cut it too long, I think. Is that supposed to go through there, I think? Where's that pop out at? No, I'm just gonna make it shorter. It's too long. Do the same thing, add a couple pieces of, or just one piece here, and go a little bit bigger this time. Yeah, beautiful. All right, so get you guys one last view of this, and then I'll do the other side. All right, so obviously all the way up there, we got it coming up the pillar. Coming up our pillar here, or a pillar, and up and through, and then connected. And I think that'll work just fine. All right, I'm gonna take a cool down break real quick, do the other side, and then we'll talk about a few other things. All right, so here we are on the passenger side. I will say that pulling the tube through actually went easier. And when I was pulling it through, I found an actual break in it. So, sorry, not that side. It was one of these other, oh yeah, right here. So this side was leaking too. Anyway, pulling it through was easier. However, getting this middle clip, which it's virtually impossible to see. There's that little gap right there where the light's dead on. It's on the other side of that, and there's a stupid little screw sticking out. I don't even know if we can see it. Anyway, I removed this junction box. I removed the side panel. There's a clip up top here. You can kind of see it right there. You can even see the hose in it. And that one, once you disconnect this guy, you can actually wiggle it out of the way, and you can even stuff your hand up in there, and it's really not too bad. So that one wasn't too bad. But I wanted my routing to be just right. So, man, that was a bugger getting that second clip to work. But, oh, there's that stupid screw. Right there, it sticks out. So when you're trying to weasel your hand up in between here, like this, that damn screw catches your hand. And I had to take these wire bundles and push them back and away. And finally, I was able to get that thing to clip in there. I'm not gonna lie, if you're not really just dead set on getting it back to the way it was, I wouldn't bother with that middle clip. It's out of the way, it's not touching anything. I guess I just wanted the challenge or something. You can see the tube routing way back up in there. Yep, and it looks good. I'm happy with it. I'm probably gonna push it back over just a smidge. You can see it kind of, yeah, okay, there. There's like this hump right there that the tube is supposed to go back, forward, I guess, and around and back, and then it clips again. Anyway, so all these clips are done. Now I'm just gonna get the hose trimmed and installed on the grommet, and then I'll do the same thing to the top, and then we're gonna do reassembly, and we'll talk a little bit more then. It's been almost a week, and I moved the Jeep outside to bake it in the sun. I'd connect the battery, roll the window down just a crack so that the humidity could escape. And even though it's 130 degrees inside the Jeep for 4 or 5 hours, it's still not working. I still have a really wet spot on this carpet up here. I was really hoping to avoid pulling the whole carpet, but honestly, I just spent maybe 30 minutes pulling the rest of the stuff to get the carpet out. I'll show you real quick. Okay, hopefully you get a good enough view. Anyway, I already had the driver's seat out. The passenger seat had to come out. Both rear seats had to come out. In my case, I had this bracket down here holding this amplifier in, so that had to come out. All the seat belts, both the buckle side and the seat belts themselves, there's 2 big bolts that hold those in. and the associated trim panels that hold that in. The door trim panels had to come out. The center console had to come out. And that's pretty much it. I think it's ready to be pulled out now. So I'm going to go ahead and get it out of here. I'm going to put it on the deck and let it just cook in the sun all day long. Might even throw a heat blanket under it. Once I get it out, I'll show you the wet spot over there. I'm just going to make sure it's untucked on this back ledge first, because it wraps up and over for this back seat. And I had just cut this part loose a few months ago to do the rear wheel speed sensor, so that'll be easy. Okay, so that's up and out of the way. More trim panel pieces. Trying to keep everything co-located, you know, sides and fronts and versus fronts and backs. We can't peel this up and out of here. I don't know about this ductwork here. Let's see, pull it here. I don't know if I'm pulling more of the dash. Oh, there's where the ductwork plugs in. Okay, so there's ductwork on this front edge here. Just popped right loose. Okay, passenger side is loose. Again, it's a ductwork plug, might be fun. That side is basically done. Yeah. It looks like it'd be easiest to, I think this is completely done, I think. Maybe? Yeah, that's not there. So it looks like it's easiest to lift up on back and pull the whole part afterward, for aft. Oh, there it goes. It's loose. I probably should just pull the rest of the seat out. Here, I feel like taking a wheel out. I don't think I need to. I got these little wires for the seats. Make sure you get stuff back in. Driver's side completely loose. Driver's side looks like it's loose. Yep, it's loose. I'm going to get in here. I'm going to fold it in half. Pull out this left rear door. There it is. So this is a first for me. I've never pulled this carpet out, but this whole section right here is still soaking wet. I can literally squeegee water out of it still. And it's mostly because of this. It's got all this sound deadening and foam cushioning under it that's covered with plastic, so it makes it almost impossible for it to dry out. So I'm gonna go set this up on the porch. And hopefully by the end of today, this part will be dried out. That was the last part. And then obviously I'll go ahead and, since I got it out, I'll go ahead and clean it up and scrub it down really good, vacuum the crap out of this thing. Beat it with a broom too, whatever I gotta do. Get it all cleaned up. But yeah, it's this foam, probably sound deadening foam in here under the plastic. I have half of mine to poke some holes in it, but I don't want to do that. But yeah, it's still really, yeah. The rest of from here back is now dry. It's taken a week for just this part to dry, but it keeps pooling. All right, so that's the update for now. I'll, when I go to install everything and fix the wires, we'll go ahead and continue on then. Stay tuned. All right, so just a real quick update. After ripping the carpet out, took it out on the porch. It was beautiful and sunny, not a cloud in the sky. Laid it over the railing, pointing towards the south, and less than 2 hours later, rain. I mean, flat out rain. So I was able to get it off the porch before it started raining. Brought it in here, strung it up on the overhead for the overhead door, the rails. Got it off the floor. It was actually just dripping onto the floor. There's a couple wet spots down there. I decided to get out my torpedo heater, you know, a salamander. It's diesel powered or kerosene, whatever. And I threw that on the driver's side for a couple of hours yesterday. And then for the overnight, I just plugged in a little floor fan. The passenger side is still dripping a little bit, still has some water in it. The driver's side still is damp to the touch. So I'm gonna put the heater back on it. Just let it keep going. Today it's on and off rain again with no sun, and it's only gonna be in the 70s, low 70s for the next couple of weeks. I'm not even gonna bother trying to dry it outside again. I'm just gonna keep the fans on it, keep the heater on it. It's a good thing we don't have to have the Jeep available every day right now. I suppose I could put the seats and everything back in without the carpet. Since we did get all that rain yesterday and last night, you know, I checked the inside of the Jeep, the floorboards or the pan is still dry, so that's a good sign. Whatever was leaking doesn't appear to be leaking anymore. And we'll pick back up when this thing's dry. All right, everybody, this carpet has been hanging and drying for 4 or 5 days now. After that last update, when I told you I'd throw or put the torpedo heater on it, the next day after again throwing the torpedo heater on it, I was researching how to dry out automotive carpet, and somebody mentioned don't use heat because the carpet can shrink. So I stopped doing that, and I just been putting 2 fans on it. I got the big shop fan back there, and it's mostly dry. This padding that's on the bottom side here, covered in this plastic. It just retains that water forever. Couple guys say like 12 to 24 hours most. Well, this was dripping, you know, upright hanging like this for 4 or 5 days at least. That was even after the heat for 2 days and then fans for days after that. But I think it's dry enough. However, you know, I thought I had those drain tubes fixed for the sunroof, and I'm still getting indications. I actually had standing water on the passenger side, but coming from the back compartment, the rear seat area. So, and then a little bit on the front driver's side floor. So I'm gonna go ahead and set up a hose, and I'm gonna put that on top of the Jeep and just let it run. And then I'm gonna get inside of it with a flashlight and just look and see where it's coming from. Because I'm not gonna go through this again. So far I've discovered 5 potential areas for leaks. There's obviously more because I thought I had everything taken care of. Now apparently there's 2 drain tubes for that sunroof that go down the back side. Maybe that's where the leak on the rear right side for the rear right floor pan's coming from. I don't know, but it can't be for the front left side. Anyway, I'm thinking maybe the door jamb seals, because the back right door jamb seal has been kind of hanging down and not staying on the pinch seam like it's supposed to. So we're just going to try it out. I'm going to troubleshoot this until I get it right. Unfortunately, it's been over 2 weeks now since 2 weeks and a day since I tore this thing apart. Basically been unusable, but I'm not going to put it back together if it's still leaking. So we're going to fix this one way or the other. I'm going to bring you guys inside the Jeep with me while this is going on, but it'll take a minute for me to get everything set up. All right, so just so you can see how I got this set up, just rigged a hose, a couple spring clamps up there. It's definitely getting the sunroof, the door jambs, the passenger side door jamb specifically is what I'm looking for, and the windshield area. So I'm gonna go ahead and climb in here now. This is getting so irritating. So right down here, I don't know if I can focus on this or not, but there's a spot right down there. Geez, the light in here is just killer right now, sorry. There it is. So that spot right there, it's dripping down from there somehow. And then back over here, go figure, I thought I left my flashlights in here and I didn't. But you can see it's still kind of wet right here, and there's actually standing water under there. I'm gonna go grab the flashlight. Okay, so there's still actually some water, standing water in there, something. I don't know what. And the other day, there was standing water right here. You can still see the marks. Right here, it looks like there's a little bit of rust. So if I back up, that's the right rear passenger door. I've already peeled all this stuff up, and I didn't see anything specifically. And honestly, I don't know where the rear tube for this sunroof is. So I'm just kind of playing it by ear right now. Looking for marks. Looking for something, anything. Like I said, I am not putting this thing back together. All right, so the tube up there, see if I can focus in on this. So that tube is working. I can see it draining. That one does not look like it's draining. Oh yeah, I see it. Barely, but it's in there. It's trickling. Well, when I find something, I'll bring everybody back. All right, so I definitely found a leak. There's water dripping right here out of this door jamb, and I found that initially because this seal up here doesn't like to stay put. You see this big gap up here? I just pushed it up, but you can see it dripping right through. And right now, because of that, it's dripping from here on the inside of this jamb all the way down, and it's leaking out there. And you can see it pooling. So that's definitely one spot. See the water pooling there. And the same thing on this side. This door jamb seal, right here, you can see there's wet spots. Right, let me get the flashlight, right in there. Yep, so kind of the same thing's happening on both sides. Let me show you what I was talking about over here. And this has been an issue for years. I never really thought of it as an issue, but it doesn't even fit right when it's completely snugged up like it's supposed to, going one direction. The other side's got a gap, and if I fix that gap, it pulls it down over here. It just doesn't quite fit right. So I'm gonna try to stretch that out or something. All right, it is really bright out today, but just a quick update. There's a rain channel that goes along this whole thing. It's in two pieces. Okay, so this piece goes right up here and it gets screwed in, and then the other piece goes behind it, obviously. And I found that the seal behind this thing did not look very good. Goes right there, and then there's another seal. That seal right there gets tucked into that whole thing. So this channel feeds into the front channel. And honestly, that should have kept the water from even getting to this seal, the door jamb seal. So I took all that off, cleaned it all up, used some mineral spirits. It's all clean now and ready to put back together. And I'm gonna put some of that 3M adhesive, that weather strip adhesive, just on the back of the component itself for reassembly. All right, everybody, so I pulled this seal down and I put some more goo under this lip here, all the way from about here to over here. The rest of this doesn't have any goo anymore, I don't think, but and it's staying. It's pretty solid. You can see it pulls down just a smidge, but I think that's just because it's really warm out right now, and the tack is taking an extra minute to set up. Now the other side, I redid the entire upper rain channel seal, this entire piece all the way back. You can see I got a little bit of the glue in here, and it's pretty stout. And I don't know, to tell you the truth, it's still not, see how it's wiggly like that? And the rain channel itself, or the mounting channel, whatever you want to call it, it's not exactly perfect either. Either way, this piece, the actual door piece, that right there was just like hanging down. So this one is glued and it's staying pretty snug. Now that I did have a gap down here now, because the thing is definitely not as long as it should have been. It makes me wonder if it was just really warm in the shop or the factory when they put it on, and then it cooled down and shrunk, so it doesn't quite fit right now. But I'm not too worried about the bottom side. I'm mostly worried about up here. You know, the water will run down along the edges and make it out around here, which I'm fine with. It can drip out there. It's when it gets on top up here and it gets behind the seal there, then it gets in the track or in the middle of the seal, then on its way down, it gets on the inside. So I already peeled this back, the wire loom here, dried off where it was wet. Still a little bit there, but same thing down here, still a little bit of wetness, but I'm gonna go ahead and try the hose trick again. It's been about an hour, or almost an hour anyway. Pretty warm out here. It's setting up pretty good. And I'm gonna let this thing just go and keep an eye. I'm not getting in it this time. It's a little too warm in there now. All right, so got it rigged up again. This time it's a little more evenly spread. Can definitely see the water trickling off the windshield and coming out those drain holes that we saw before that were up in behind the wheel well. That's where that's coming from, so that's a good sign there. I like seeing this stuff dripping out of the door jambs here. That tells me that it's going around the way it's supposed to. So same thing on this side. Got it dripping down right there, which is good. Same thing, it's coming out of the bottom of the door jamb right over here, so that's good too. I gotta go reposition that sprayer. It's tipping on me. Actually, that'll give me a good chance to look inside the door over here. See if I see anything in here. Cool, nothing on the floor here. I don't see anything anywhere else just yet. That all looks the way it did before. I got nothing coming in through that door jamb this time, at least not yet. I don't see anything up front. It still looks the same as it did. All right, I'll reposition this thing and keep getting after it. Okay, well, I'm gonna let this go for a little while. I'm gonna get up there and spray it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, make sure I'm getting all the door jambs. And when I'm done, probably 10-15 minutes, we'll check it one last time on the inside, and if it looks good, we're just gonna put it back together. All right, well, I really took it to it this time. I put it on the full flow, not the fast flow, but full flow. And I think because I was literally aiming that right into this crevice here, I got a little bit that started sneaking in right here at this joint, which again is probably because it you know, drained down the edges until it found its way out. But nothing yet on the other side. The two drain tubes that we replaced seem to be working just fine. I got no new wet spots on the floor here. So I think we are ready for reassembly. And next I'm going to show you the wires that got to be replaced. Welcome back to our regular scheduled programming, the reason that this entire endeavor took place. So I've already gone through all of these wiring harnesses. I mean, there is a ton here. And everywhere that I got a little piece of purple tape is a spot that I found bad. All right, so if you watch my video about the rear hatch glass release mechanism and the rear wiper, rear window wiper, you know that I fixed this pink wire in here. I think that, no, that's not it. Anyway, I fixed that, but to find it, I ripped all of these wires apart and I had to tear all the original coating off of it. So I rewrapped it with electrical tape, the whole thing, front to back, all of it. And when you're tearing this out looking for new problems, the easiest way that I found is just to simply look for the green dust. All right, so like right here's one. When I started tearing it apart, I found this green dust. That is copper corrosion right there, oxidation. All right, so let's look at it here. Everywhere that I've got one of these purple pieces of tape is a broken wire. And there is a bunch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I know there's several more, 8, 9, or 7, 8, 9, I mean, there is a bunch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, one of them I cut accidentally when I was opening this thing back up. However, the reason why I started doing this entire project was because the driver's seat wasn't moving, and that's this red wire right here. Let's follow it back. And if we go back here, and I think I might have showed this one earlier, sorry, I'm in the middle of 50 things right now. Look at that. That wire is toast, completely gonzo, all right? And there's a bunch like that. This one I accidentally cut. I have this little tool here. I'll tell you what, man, something like this, just to slip along the tape, and oh man, it's fantastic. But occasionally you catch a wire. But a lot of these other ones, you know, like there's, see that right there? Rotted out, just completely gone. The wire's not even there. And like the other video I showed, you just pull the wire and run your finger along it with a little tension and put a little bit of a curl in it, and you'll feel a weak spot in there. That's how I found almost every one of these other than the bright green spots. Like this one up here, that's how I found this one. I was just running my finger along it and I was like, whoa, a weak spot. And sure enough, I mean, it's gone. I mean, I could probably take this right now and just, yep, there it goes, easy peasy. I mean, that's how bad it is. And it really frustrates me that Jeep used this small gauge of wire to run everything in here. Anywho, I'm gonna get to fixing this. All I plan on doing is taking a little crimp or a little butt connector, and I'll slide a little piece of this heat shrink over the wire. I'll clean, you know, strip the wire a little bit, put this guy on there, crimp it on both ends, and crimp it, and then slide this over and heat shrink it, and that's all I'm going to do for all of these ones. That first one, there was a big chunk missing. First one, by that I mean when I was fixing the trunk glass or liftgate glass. So I actually replaced a whole chunk of wire and replace it with better wire, obviously. I mean, it's hard to even buy this crappy a wire. I don't think Harbor Freight sells this crappy a wire. Thanks, Jeep, Chrysler, Daimler, whatever they call themselves now. Anywho, once this is all put back together, I'll go ahead and get another update here. There was this ground here, which is another ground that I had cleaned off before, and it was all rusted back up. So I already wire brushed that clean. And before I put the carpet back in, I'll go ahead and vacuum everything out. And I'll probably even, you know, either wipe it down with some oil of some sort, or, you know, spray it down with something. I just don't want this to get worse than it already is. Hoo-wee, people. One of the longest jobs I've ever done. Pulled and rebuilt engines faster than this job has taken. So I found 10 wires out of this bundle that needed repair. So obviously the main power for the seat itself, but then a bunch of little ones, you know, all these heat shrinked spots here. This blue and green, I think, is for the ABS sensors, which would explain why the ABS has been hit or miss lately. I don't remember what most of these are, to tell you the truth, but some of them were completely broke, some of them were just close. This one, the wire looked bad underneath, so I cut out as much as I had to and just spliced in a new chunk. All sorts of wires, and I completely removed all the wrap on all of these wires just to make sure, because all of these were, you know, right against the floor and they got wet. So now I got to go through the really fun process of rewrapping this. Now I'm not going to do what I did last time and completely wrap it in electrical tape. I'm not going to do that again. I am going to do a crisscross pattern, and I'll show you before I actually stuff the carpet back in. Electrical tape crisscross back and forth, and then I actually have some of that wire loom protector stuff, sleeves or whatever they're called. And I'm going to try to use as much of that as I can. You know, I basically don't want these to get, you know, have abrasion problems where they're rubbing on things. So I'll try to take care of that. Look at that. You can still see some of the green dust down here from where these wires were falling apart. Come on, focus. There we go. That's that dust left over. That was from this bigger wire here, the red one. Had a huge chunk that was all rotted right out. And I'll vacuum out the floor, and then I'm going to start the reassembly process. But I'll show you the wire loom after I get it back together, and we'll go from there. All right, so mostly done up the way I want. I still have to do this back section over here, but I figured before I wrap it all up for sure, you know, and completely bolt everything back down, I'm going to try out the seat, make sure it works, and I'd like to see if the lights, the dome lights or overhead lights in the back of the Jeep work now. So it's plugged back in, or the seat's in and plugged in. It's not bolted down. Go ahead and throw our negative back on. Yep, beeping. Turn the key on. Yep, that was definitely the issue there. Wonder if the memory seats work. I don't know what the heck it's thinking. I don't know why the memory's not working right now, but I'm honestly not really worried about that. And the rear overhead dome is working. Fantastic. So these guys up here were not turning on, and that dome back there wasn't turning on. So that's nice. These ones I think are switched on here somehow or another. We don't ever touch them. Well, cool. So now that I know it's all working, I'm going to go ahead and actually wrap it up, pull the seat back out, finish up my wire loom. And now that I look at these, you know, I just double crossed it, wrapped it, you know, spiraled down, then spiraled back up. And I think that's going to be good enough to keep it from chafing, and it'll also allow water to drain out. I think that might have been a problem before with doing a full wrap job on these, is that it just traps the water. So I don't think I need to put that loom on here, or the loom sleeve or protector. So I'm not going to worry about that. And when it's all done and ready for the carpet, we'll be back. Well, here we are again, next day. Next day, it's always next day here, but it took me over an hour to vacuum off this carpet yesterday, get all the crap out of it. Had these really weird, like hardened in stains of something white. I don't know what it was. Several places all over it. Even right here, it's still here, down in here. No clue. I used a wire brush, helped a little bit, but anyway, to put all this in context, 3 weeks ago today is when I recognized that the carpet was wet, or well, when the problem with the seat came up. 2 days after that is when I tore into it, and it sat for at least a week with the carpet propped up and fans blowing on it when I wasn't actually working on it. And then for the past week and a half, this carpet has been out of the Jeep altogether. For 5 of those days, it was actually hanging upside down from the rafters. or from the garage door rack rails, and for 2 of those days, I had a torpedo heater pointed at this thing and fans on it 24/7, and it still has moisture inside of it. It's tough to see, but this foam padding underneath the carpet itself. Let me see if I can find a spot that actually, so check this out. After all of this time and all the heat, it still has water in this padding here. This rubberized, cushiony padding. I mean, holy crap. It's unreal how much water this stuff can hold. But honestly, I'm tired of waiting. I am not gonna wait anymore. You can see it's definitely still wet on the bottom side, but I was kneeling on this carpet yesterday when I was vacuuming it, and I didn't get wet at all. So whatever's left in this foam underneath is just gonna stay there. I'm done dealing with that. All right, now the very last thing I'm gonna do before I put this carpet in here is wipe down this floorboard with some mineral oil. This is just my local grocery store mineral oil. It's a 16 fluid ounce. It was like $3. You could use like cutting board oil, but you know, I'm just using this to help protect it. It did start to rust a little bit. And my goal right now is to basically stop it from rusting anymore and put a little protective barrier down there. I mean, there's a little spot right here. It's not bad. This stuff is fragrance free, and I'm just gonna wipe everything down in hopes. You know, I don't know what the basically, I don't want to have to go through a full resto kind of a job here and wire wheel and everything like that. So I'm just going to wet it down with this stuff and hope that that does the trick. I mean, the vehicle's already 20 years old. I'm just trying to get as many more years out of it without doing heavy resto work. I'm just going to let it soak into this rag and wipe everything down. You can see what a difference it already makes. I thought about trying to throw some of this in a spray bottle, maybe thin it out a little and throw it in a spray bottle, but honestly, I just don't feel like that. I'm just gonna wipe it down and call it good. I'm not gonna hit the vertical surfaces, just the bottom, the horizontal flats. Just giving it a little whiff here. It does have a little bit of an oil smell to it, but nothing that I think is gonna protrude through the carpet. I'm just going to pour a little bit through these holes because there is a little bit of rust down in there. But I have a feeling that this will spread out all on its own. And all of my wiring is already back in place. All right, so I think that turned out pretty good. Just the mineral oil rubbed all over. I poured it into these holes right here so it gets under that cross member. It'll even itself out over time. Some of this heavy duty rubber stuff here, some sort of sealant, I don't know exactly what it is, but it's cracking apart in a bunch of places. So I just poured a little bit in each one of those cracks there and let it seep down in. Shouldn't hurt anything. It's food grade, so you get the stuff that's basically like castor oil, and it acts like a laxative, so it's food safe. If it drips down, gets on anything, it won't hurt anything, and that should help protect the inside of the vehicle quite nicely. All right. In the driver's side, probably be the example, but they have these ports on them for the lower fan or air duct to get into the back. That's what it is. Okay. All right, that duct is in. Everything's good there. That's for that. Make sure it gets under this piece here. Just like that over there. There we go. Okay. Let's get this duct up. Okay. All right, that's all looking good. Your seat connectors push back through. Seat power connectors. And this side also had, where's that seatbelt one? Obviously there's that seatbelt. Harness thing. Yeah. Okay. I'll worry about that stuff later. All there. That looks good. Good. Ground's still there. Okay. One goes there. Go closer there. Yep. Also get through there. And that goes in there. That's right there. Looks like we're doing the better side. Okay. Good. Oh, that's fine. I was really afraid that heating this thing was going to shrink before it did fit properly. But as right now, it appears to fit just fine. Okay. This backside tucked back in here. Okay, that's good. That's the thing. Good. Now we're fine. Let's put that right here. Back there. Now I can see everything's happening here. All right, so it's getting there. It's a process. You know, if you took it out, you should be able to get it back in. I'll pick back up once I get everything put back in. All right, folks, everything is put back together, looking right, working right. I tested out the memory seat. It's working good. Floors look good. All the trim happened to go back in, and it's amazingly, I didn't even have any leftover parts this time. One thing I didn't go over during the video was when I pulled the headliner down to get to those drain tubes, at least I don't think I covered it. I'll figure that out once I do the video editing. But I knocked the rain sensor off the windshield. And apparently it's a pretty big ordeal, and there's a lot of people that have issues with these auto wipers. Ooh, wrong side. When you go to auto, anyway, yeah, when you turn it on, it goes straight to auto, and if that sensor isn't working correctly, then you end up going straight to high, which I don't like that. I like it to actually be, come on, focus. I like it to actually be, you know, intermittent, and it really ticks me off when it just goes straight to high. I picked up some flex glue. What's it called? This crystal clear pool liner stuff here. And yeah, that's it right there. I don't know if it's gonna work, but I treated it just like a rear window or rear view mirror button that you put on. You know, you clean off the button and then you put a drop on the button. You push the button on the windshield and let it harden, and it'll stick. Well, there's a plate on the back side of that thing that it just pops right off, and I had this glue on the back of it. I went ahead and cleaned it off, cleaned the windshield with some alcohol, denatured alcohol, did the same thing to that backing plate, but I put a big wad of that crystal clear pool glue on there. It's just a silicone glue of some sort, and so far it's looking good. So it looks like this part right here is peeling off. That's the stuck part. So I'm gonna push on it again and see if I can't get more of it to stick again. Yeah, that definitely helped, but I don't know if it's actually gonna make a difference. Come on, here it is. It's really tough, but the darker spots is where it's stuck really good. These light spots here. So I don't know. I don't really have high hopes for it. If I gotta peel it off and do it again, I will. So that's pretty much it for this video. If you do have any questions or comments, please throw it down there. I know I went over a whole lot of stuff on this video, you know, the floorboards and 6 different ways. Now, I kept finding new ways for water to get in here. I ended up fixing 3 of these 4 door jamb seals, the weather stripping. This back left one here is the only one I didn't actually take off, and it seems like it's still working just fine. I had a little bit of drippage when I was spraying the hose on it, you know, straight on, but outside of that, it seems fine. And if it does leak a little bit, I'll just go ahead and peel it down, put weather stripping adhesive in the groove, put it back together. You know, I had, what, 7+ broke wires down there, which is pretty common. We've had this Jeep for about 14 years now, so I can't complain too much. I've put it through a lot. It's sitting at like 225,000 miles. This has been a 3-week job now, and I'm glad it's finally over. Now I gotta reprogram everything and the radio presets and all that crap. But hey, thanks for watching. Keep pulling on them bootstraps. We'll catch you on the next project.